You have been taught to hide your scars. Tonight I want you to hold them up like medals. Open with a single, raw image or sentence that arrests attention: a failed test, an empty chair, a turned-away audition. State the central promise. By the end of this talk, you will stop running from failure and start using it to build a life you can't break. Use silence after the line to let the room feel it. When most people hear the word failure, their chest tightens. Their mind immediately drags them back to the test they didn't pass, the job they didn't land, the relationship that slipped through their fingers. We carry this word like a scarlet letter, as if failure is a permanent label stamped on our foreheads. But let's pause and ask, what does failure really mean? Failure is not who you are. Failure is an event, a moment, a result that did not match an expectation. It is not a definition of your worth. It is simply feedback. Yet society has taught us to believe otherwise. We are told that success is a straight climb upward and that the ones who stumble are weak, lazy, or unworthy. That is a lie. No success story you admire is without collapse. Every breakthrough you see was built on the ashes of attempts that did not work. The truth is this: failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Every time you fell as a child learning to walk, you were failing forward. Every time you spoke before you had the right words, you failed your way into speech. Without those small stumbles, you would have never learned to stand, never learned to speak, never learned to grow. So when we say failure, we must strip away the shame. We must stop hearing it as a verdict and start seeing it as information. Failure is a mirror. It reflects not your lack of worth, but the gap between where you are and where you could be. It is not the end of your story. It is simply one sentence in the middle of your chapter. I remember the night vividly. The room was silent, but inside me there was a storm. I had worked for months-long days, longer nights pouring every ounce of myself into a dream I believed was mine to hold. I sacrificed sleep. I ignored doubts. I gave everything I had. And then, in a matter of minutes, it all collapsed. The result came back. I hadn't made it. The door I was certain would open slammed in my face. It felt like the air had been ripped from my lungs. I sat there, staring at the rejection in front of me, unable to process how something I wanted so deeply had slipped away. My hands shook, not because of anger, but because of the weight of disappointment. I asked myself questions that cut deeper than any failure itself. Was I not good enough? Was I fooling myself all along? Did I waste my time? I didn't tell anyone how broken I felt. On the outside, I pretended to be fine, but inside I was drowning. I replayed every mistake in my mind, every word I could have said differently, every step I could have taken another way. That night taught me something about failure. I didn't want to learn it isn't just about losing an opportunity. It's about confronting the mirror that shows you every fear you've ever carried. But in that darkness, something else began to whisper. A question I wasn't ready to answer yet. What if this wasn't the end, but the beginning of something I couldn't yet see? That question lingered in the silence, even as the pain stayed heavy on my chest. Failure often feels like a single blow, but if we slow down and look closely, we realize it has layers. It's not always about weakness or incompetence, it's about pieces that didn't align. Sometimes we fall short because our expectations were unrealistic. We wanted the mountain climbed in one leap, forgetting that progress is step by step. Sometimes we lacked the right skills at the right moment. Effort without preparation can only carry you so far. But not every failure is within our control. There are times when the timing is wrong, when the opportunity wasn't meant for that season of our lives. There are times when external forces, the economy, decisions of others, unforeseen events shift the ground beneath us. And yet, when the dust settles, we rarely separate what was in our hands from what wasn't. Instead, we gather all of it and place it on our shoulders, carrying blame that doesn't belong to us. Understanding the anatomy of failure matters because it changes how we heal. If you know the difference between a gap in skill and a twist of circumstance, you can respond with clarity. You don't berate yourself for what you couldn't control. You strengthen what you can. When we begin to see failure as a puzzle of many pieces, the shame loosens its grip. We realize that failure doesn't define us, it simply highlights where we stand and what needs to grow. So the next time you fall, instead of asking, "Why am I such a failure?" try asking, "Which piece was missing? Was it preparation, patience, timing, or something beyond me?" That shift alone can turn the pain of falling into the blueprint for rising. Every failure is a teacher, though it rarely feels that way in the moment. When you're standing in the ashes of something that didn't work, your first instinct isn't to take notes, it's to hide the smoke, to escape the sting. But if you dare to look closer, you'll see that hidden inside every disappointment is a lesson written in bold ink. Failure teaches clarity. It strips away illusions and shows you what truly matters. The job you lost might teach you that your worth was never tied to a title. The relationship that ended might reveal what you can no longer compromise. The dream that crumbled may point you toward the one you were meant to pursue. Failure teaches humility. It reminds us we are not invincible, and that is a gift. It grounds us, softens us, and makes us more human. We learn to listen, to adapt, to ask for help when pride once held our tongue. Failure teaches skill. Each attempt that falls short sharpens your edge. A writer learns to rewrite. An athlete learns to train smarter. A leader learns to communicate better. The fall itself becomes a form of practice, turning weakness into strength. And, above all, failure teaches grit. It tests how badly you want something. Anyone can keep going when the road is smooth. But when the path is broken, when the weight of rejection presses against your chest, your decision to rise again becomes the birthplace of resilience. So, when you fail, ask yourself not just what went wrong, but what is this moment trying to teach me? Because buried beneath the rubble of every setback is wisdom that no book, no lecture, no shortcut could ever give you. Most of us have been trained to respond to failure with shame. We lower our voices when we talk about it. We hide the details, and sometimes we hide ourselves. We say, "I failed," as if failure is our name, our identity, our destiny. But what if that single shift in language is what keeps us chained? What if failure is not who you are, but simply what happened? Reframing failure begins with how you speak to yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," say, "That attempt didn't work." Instead of saying, "I'm terrible at this," say, "I haven't mastered this yet." Words matter, because words shape the way your mind interprets reality. And if you change the story, you begin to change the outcome. Another powerful practice is reflection. After every setback, write down 3 things: what happened, what you learned, and what you'll do differently next time. This isn't about blaming yourself, it's about gathering data. Scientists don't call their experiments failures, they call them results. You can do the same. Each setback becomes a test, and each test leaves behind information you can use. Reframing is also about perspective. When you stop seeing failure as a wall and start seeing it as a doorway, you begin to move differently. Suddenly, failure is not a dead end. It is a redirection. It is not proof of your limits. It is proof that you were bold enough to try. Imagine living this way, not weighed down by shame, but guided by strategy. Every failed attempt becomes a compass pointing you closer to what works. Every rejection becomes understanding failure is only the first step. The real power comes when we learn to use failure as fuel. When we equip ourselves with practical tools that turn setbacks into stepping stones. These tools are not complicated. They are habits, mindsets, and small daily practices that anyone can apply. One of the most effective tools is reflection. After each failure, take the time to ask yourself 3 questions. What worked? What didn't? What can I do differently next time? Writing down your answers transforms the pain of failure into actionable insight. Instead of replaying mistakes over and over in your mind, you create a clear map of what to adjust, what to learn, and what to improve. Another essential tool is breaking your goals into small experiments. Too often, we risk everything on one giant leap, and when it fails, it crushes us. But if we treat each attempt as a test, each step as a mini challenge, failure loses its weight. Each small experiment provides feedback, teaches a lesson, and brings you closer to the ultimate goal. Recovery practices are equally important. Real resilience is not about pushing non-stop. It is about knowing when to pause, rest, and repair. Journaling, meditating, exercising, or simply taking a walk can restore your energy and give your mind clarity. This is not weakness, it is preparation for your next attempt. Finally, accountability is a tool that can't be underestimated. Surround yourself with people who will challenge you, who will remind you of your potential, and who will not let you quit silently. The right circle turns failure from a lonely burden into a shared journey, helping you rise faster and stronger with each setback. With these tools, reflection, experimentation, recovery, and accountability, failure becomes not an obstacle, but a guide, showing you the path forward and giving you the confidence to take the next step. When failure strikes, the instinct is often to isolate. We close the door, shut off the phone, and convince ourselves that no one could possibly understand. But resilience was never meant to be built in solitude. Strength does not only come from what you carry inside, it comes from who stands beside you. Think of the times you were at your lowest. Wasn't it a voice, a hand, a presence that reminded you that you weren't alone? A mentor who told you, "This doesn't define you." A friend who refused to let you give up. A family member who reminded you of your worth when you had forgotten it. Those moments are proof. Community is not just comfort, it is fuel. Building resilience means surrounding yourself with people who will speak truth when you can't see it. Not cheerleaders who only clap when things go well, but companions who will be honest when you need correction and compassionate when you need grace. These are the people who help you separate the lesson from the shame, who remind you that one failure is not your whole story. But community is also about accountability. Alone, it's easy to quit quietly. Together, quitting becomes harder because someone is holding you to the fire of your own potential. That accountability is not a burden, it is a gift. It keeps you moving when your own strength falters. So resilience isn't built in the silence of your own struggle. It's built in the echo of voices that remind you of your strength, even when you've forgotten it. It's built in the circle of people who see not just where you fell, but where you can rise. Every failure leaves you standing at a crossroads. One road is familiar, it is the road of retreat, where you shrink back, where you allow the sting of defeat to convince you that trying again isn't worth it. That road is tempting because it's safe, because it asks nothing more from you, because it whispers, "At least you won't get hurt again." But deep inside, you know the cost of that road: regret, wasted potential, a life half-lived. The other road is harder. It demands that you stand back up when your knees are still bleeding, that you raise your eyes when they are heavy with tears, that you take a step forward even when your legs tremble. This is the road of resilience, the road of growth, the road of courage. And walking it begins with one simple, powerful decision: making a new contract with yourself. A contract is not just words, it is a promise you cannot walk away from. It is an agreement between who you are right now and who you are becoming. It says, "I may fall, but I will rise. I may lose, but I will learn. I may break, but I will not quit." This contract is not signed with ink. It is signed with your actions, with every attempt you dare to make after failure tries to silence you. So what goes into this contract? First, a commitment to try again. Not someday, not when the conditions are perfect, but soon now. Waiting for the right moment is how dreams die. Your contract must demand that you take the next small step, no matter how fragile your confidence feels. Second, a commitment to learn. Every failure is wasted if you walk away empty-handed. Your contract must remind you to carry the lesson forward. If you failed at a job interview, your contract pushes you to sharpen your skills, to refine your answers, to prepare better. If you failed in a relationship, your contract demands you reflect, grow, and love again wiser. Not colder. Third, a commitment to speak differently to yourself. Too many of us sign silent contracts of self-destructs, whispering, "I'm not enough. I'll never make it." Your new contract must erase those words and replace them with truth. I am learning. I am growing. I am not finished yet. Because the way you speak to yourself is the foundation of the way you rise. Fourth, a commitment to persistence. Failure is rarely defeated in one attempt. Success belongs to those who dare to outlast disappointment. Your contract should remind you that it's not about one victory, it's about showing up again and again until the walls that once stopped you are worn down by your consistency. And finally, a commitment to courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Your contract must call you to take risks, to stretch, to lean into the unknown even when your heart is pounding. Because every new attempt requires courage, and courage is built in the furnace of failure. Imagine what your life could look like if you lived by this contract. No longer defined by setbacks, but propelled by them. No longer silenced by rejection, but sharpened through it. No longer chained by fear, but liberated by the knowledge that you can fall and still rise again. This contract is not a piece of paper. It is not tucked away in a drawer. It is written in the choices you make when no one is watching. It is written in the way you get up tomorrow morning after a sleepless night of doubt. It is written in the risks you take, the chances you seize, the battles you refuse to abandon. And the truth is, no one can sign this contract for you. Not your family, not your friends, not your mentors. Only you can look at your reflection in the mirror and decide, am I willing to begin again? Because beginning again is the purest form of courage. Beginning again is how the broken become unbreakable, how the fallen become unstoppable, how the ordinary become extraordinary.